we're all at different stages of life and just reality of, I know we have students in the room and retired people in the room, as well as your stage of faith. Also, some are new to the faith, some have been in the faith for a long time. How do we become deep people that we're called to be? Now, if you've been with me for very long, I'm not a one-size-fits-all formula kind of guy. There's not like, well, just do these 3 things and everyone will see the success. So, when we're talking about spiritual formation, it's God working in us. You can't fully control the process because remember, it's God that causes the growth. But with that truth in mind, what we can say with confidence is that growth always happens in partnership with God's Spirit. So you can't force it, but you can make room for it. And the way we make room for it is through different practices, different rhythms in our life that opens our lives to God. So as we pursue spiritual growth, there are kind of 3 handles you can hold on to. Rather than like 3 steps to a deep life, I like this idea of handles you can hold on to as you're walking on this journey. 3 handles that you can be confident in. So the first one, as I mentioned, is growth happens in partnership with God's Spirit. So think of it like breathing. You don't control oxygen, but you can choose to inhale. And the process of inhaling is you're just pulling your chest cavity open, and that changes the pressure, so air comes into your lungs. So you can't control the oxygen, but you can choose to inhale. Or think of a sailboat. You can't control the wind. We all know today, you can't control the weather. It's going to blow or not blow, and you can't stop it. But as a sailboat, you can put up the sail to catch the wind when it blows, and that can propel your boat forward. In the same way, you can't control God and when he's going to move, how he's going to move, but you can put yourself in with a heart posture and with different practices in your life to make yourself available to God so that he can work in you and transform you when he's ready. So this week, I just want to invite you to consider choosing one practice that opens you up to God more. There's lots of different things you could do, but one practice that would open you up to God this week. Maybe it's starting your day with Scripture. If you don't know where to start, we've got multiple Bible reading plans at the Next Steps table for you. But maybe start every day with Scripture. Read 1 chapter of Scripture a day. Or maybe it's just turning off the noise and sitting for 10 minutes in silence and listening for God's voice. How often do we intentionally turn the noise down to sit and listen to God? Maybe it's fasting from social media for a day or a week or the rest of your life. You'd be better off. Maybe it's driving without the radio or the podcast on. I love listening to podcasts and stuff. Well, maybe just slow down your heart and the pace of life a little bit. For one day this week, drive without the noise to see if you can be more sensitive to God's voice. Maybe it's just serving someone this week with no strings attached. How can you serve someone? Maybe it's starting to live more generously in one way or another. And so there's lots of ways that you can get out of your comfort zone and open yourself up to God moving in your life. But the key is, don't do it just to check the box. Okay, I did it. Don't have to worry about that anymore. But, it puts your heart in a posture, and try to stay in that posture throughout the day. And as you're trying to decide, well, what practice could I do this week? What would put me in God's presence a little bit better? Ask yourself, whatever that practice is, do I do this one or that one? Ask, well, how will it shape my character? How can God's Spirit move in this? And so maybe you're comparing between 2. It's like, well, because of what's going on in life right now, I think this might open me up to God more than that one. And so, through that process of prayer and thinking about it, you can help determine, I think God's calling me to do this practice this week. So that's the first handle we can hold on to. Second handle is growth happens in community. Growth happens in community. I say this a lot. You're probably tired of hearing me say that. But it's the truth. And far too many people don't realize the depth of that truth. You don't grow up alone. Babies don't raise themselves, do they? When left to themselves, they just cause messes and annoy their siblings and stuff. Like people have to grow up in a family if they're to be healthy. The same is true spiritually. If you isolate, you will stay stuck in your life. If you're not in a community group or a Bible study or serving on a team or connected to others in this community somehow other than Sunday mornings, then you're missing out on a large portion of your growth. I'm not trying to be mean. That's just the truth. It's like picture an athlete, a football player who shows up only for the games and never to practice and team meetings. Like they're missing out on a large portion of their development and growth as an athlete, aren't they? If they only show up for games, and that's the same thing here. If we only show up on Sundays but we don't engage in anything else with this community, you're missing out on an important part of your spiritual growth. But if you do engage in community here, you will accelerate your growth. Time and time again, people will come to me and say that, well, God feels distant and I feel disconnected from the church, and, they have different problems in life. And the common denominator in everybody's story that tells me that is they're not plugged into their community. They're not plugged into a local church. And, they may show up on a Sunday morning or special events or something, and they expect that to be enough. And they're like, why do I feel so disconnected? I'm like, because that's just the doorway of entrance. There's so much more to it. What's missing is true community, relational connection in a faith community. And so what they're missing is the relationships where there's someone we can learn from. Man, that person is, they're so mature in their faith, and I could learn so much from them. And so, get in a relationship with them. So with that in mind, let me ask, have you noticed maybe someone in this community that's maybe a step or two ahead of you in the faith? Who could you reach out to and simply ask, hey, can we have coffee together? Can we get together sometime? I want to learn from you. Or it seems like you've got some wisdom that I'd love to learn. Or I'd just like to hear your story. Is there someone that's a step or two ahead of you that can maybe help change the trajectory of your growth? I've seen it happen. I know, like Brian and Rainey, I know you guys reached out to Curtis and Shelley when they were here and said, hey, we look up to you guys. Can we meet with you? And that's such a beautiful thing. And I spoke to someone else recently in our church that they were saying, oh man, this one leader in the church, I look up to them so much. They just seem like they're so wise, and I would love to spend some time with them. It'd be nice to. And so I asked them, well, have you ever asked them? Have you ever asked to get together with them? Well, no, I haven't. Well, ask them. I know that they have some time on their hands, so reach out to them. And they did. And so now that they're getting together, and they're both benefiting from that relational connection. And it's a beautiful thing. And the thing is, it's amazing how, even though someone may look busy, they feel honored when someone's like, man, I'd love to grab coffee with you and just ask you a couple questions. They'll make time for that. If you picture someone asking you that, hey, you seem like you know some things that I don't. Can we get together? Who wouldn't say, no, get away from me. I'm too busy for you. No, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah, I'll find some time for you. So I just want to challenge you. Within our community, find someone that maybe you could meet with. Maybe it's once. Maybe it turns into a once a month or once a week. Who knows what can happen. But I bet you would benefit from that conversation. Growth happens in partnership with God. Growth happens in community. And then the third handle we can kind of hold on to as we pursue being deeper people is growth matures when it reproduces. The real mark of maturity is not how much you know, it's who you help grow. A deep person is not just a sponge that soaks up things and learns things. They're a stream that's pouring themselves out as well. As they receive, they also give. They're a conduit. A healthy lake has water coming. Scientifically, you've all heard the Dead Sea that's in Israel. There's this body of water called the Dead Sea, and it's called Dead Sea because nothing lives in it. There are no fish in it because scientifically it does not support life. Why is that? It's because it's a body of water that receives. The Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River, flows into the Dead Sea. So that's good water that's flowing into the Dead Sea. But it's geographically, it's in such a low point of the earth, there's nothing that flows out of the Dead Sea. So it takes and it takes and it takes, and it never gives. And that, from a scientific standpoint, destroys the possibility of life. For some reason, that you need an outflow as well as an inflow for a body of water to have life in it. Same thing for us. If we just take and receive and consume and nothing is flowing out of us for the benefit of others, we will stagnate in our growth. So a challenge in the same way of reaching out to connecting with someone that's a step or two ahead of you in the faith. What if there's someone that's a step or two behind you in their journey of faith. Maybe it's someone younger, maybe not. Maybe it's a student or a neighbor or a new believer in our church, someone that got baptized recently. Whatever it is, write their name down. Pray for them. And ask God, how could I encourage that person this week? Maybe it would turn into a mentoring relationship. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just send them an encouraging message, or on Sundays you say something. But it could be big, it could be small. But the reality is, maturity always reproduces. So it's good to pursue growth. It's super good to pursue mentors and people that can speak into your life. But there's also people that you could be that role for them as well. It's the best when there's people above you and below you, not just, you're the deep person and so you're just passing down your wisdom to everybody else or something. But we're always wanting to grow and help others grow as well. Maturity always reproduces. So those three handles: growth happens in partnership with God's Spirit, growth happens in community, and growth matures when it reproduces.